Have you ever woken up one day and thought, who am I now? You spent years building a life, maybe a family, a career. You checked all the boxes, you done the work, but something happened. Could be a divorce, an empty nest, the loss of a parent, and suddenly you're staring at the pieces of your old life wondering how to start again. And maybe you're in your 50s and you're wondering, is it too late to reinvent myself? If any of this feels familiar or hit home for you, this episode is definitely for you. So hi everyone, my name is Limor Bergman Gross, and you reach From a Woman to a Leader podcast, a podcast dedicated to women like you, where we go beyond titles, job descriptions, and success stories. We uncover here what it really takes for women in tech to rise as leaders, feel confident in their skin, and create careers on their own terms. And Debra's stories, my guest today, really hit home for me because I made a major change in my career and my life when I was in my late 40s. Moved back from the US to Israel, my home country, and I left corporate. I left everything I knew in order to start my coaching business. And today I'm super excited to introduce you my guest, Debra Bowers. And she's a living proof that it's never too late to rewrite your story. And Debra Bowers is a sales and marketing expert. She's also a podcast host, by the way. I interviewed at her podcast maybe about a year ago, and she's a founder of Hexagon Media. And after raising 5 kids, she walked away from a 20-year marriage, lost her mother, and really hit rock bottom. Debra didn't just bounce back, she built something new. And in this episode, Debra opens up about reclaiming your voice, starting over. And she started over in her 50s, embracing her intensity and finally building a brand that's fully aligned with who she really is, not who the world told her to be. Her story is raw, is real, and incredibly inspiring. And whether you're navigating change, rebuilding after loss, or simply wondering if there's more for you, Debra's journey will remind you that reinvention doesn't start with a rebrand. It starts with radical self-acceptance. So are you ready? Let's dive right in. Hi, Debra. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Limor? I'm so happy to be a guest.
Yeah, me too. And for our listeners, we have been talking in the past. I've been on Debra's podcast. Deals, what was the name?
Deals with Heels, where
Heels.
female entrepreneurs thrive. Yes, you gave
Deals
us
with
such
Heels.
good.
Yeah, I remember the Heels.
Yes.
Yeah, and I had fun, and now we're gonna have fun again.
100%.
Yeah, and
I'm
we're gonna
excited.
talk about something that is super, super critical for women. It's about branding yourself, selling yourself without being salesy, right? We don't want to do that. We want to be ourselves.
We don't want to be pushy unless you are pushy, and then it's important people know that about you, right? Some people just have a little bit more of an intense personality. I'm a Scorpio, and I can be intense. And if you don't know that about me, you can totally take it the wrong way. So it's important that you be true to yourself.
For sure, yeah. So maybe before we dive into that, tell our audience a little bit about you and what you do.
Okay. Well, I live in the United States. I live in Oklahoma, which is really centrally located in the United States and probably North America, really. And I've lived here my whole life, pretty much. I was born and raised here from my father died when I was really young. So I was raised from a single mom, which gave me this kind of independent thinking anyway, because my mom was the boss. She ran the whole show and was the end all for all decisions, the bottom line. And I went to college and did I got married. I climbed the corporate ladder. All in marketing. Marketing and sales is really where my expertise lies. And then I got divorced and I got remarried, and suddenly I had 4 kids under the age of 7. And that's a lot.
Wow,
Both
that
parents
sounds a lot.
it is a lot. And I'm somebody, I look at everything that I do. I want to do my best. And I felt that way as a parent.
Yeah.
And you can't both work 60 hours a week and expect your kids to be good humans when they grow up. If you have to treat them and parent them and be with them and show them through example. And so my career, I sacrificed a lot. That's what I will tell you. In order to raise, ended up raising 5 kids, and they're all adults and doing fantastic. I'm so proud of all of them. And that some went to college, some went post college degrees, and some didn't go to college at all. They're a wide variety, and I love them all. They're doing great. And then I got divorced again, and I really found myself with my nest empty and not knowing for sure where my next career path was going to be. At the time, I was running a company with my husband, and then so that blew up, right? And I was also taking care of my mom who had cancer, and she was in remission, and so that had kind of calmed down. But then in 2021, she passed away.
Mm.
And there was nothing worse that has ever really happened to me in my life than my mother passing. I had already lost a lot of my identity, right? Just by living and raising kids. And then I came to a point where, hey, they're gone. Now who am I? I don't need mom. I don't need to cook for a basketball team. And I don't, all of the things that I was done. And then my mom was gone. So I really felt like the last bit of myself was gone. I was unemployed and alone. And it was terrifying. I would say that was probably rock bottom for me and was the catalyst for me to change my life. And I started with some non-negotiable boundaries with myself. I was an athlete growing up. I was used to feeling strong, and I felt frail. I'd lost a significant amount of weight. I had lost all the way down to about 115 pounds, and I weigh about, I don't know, between 135 and 140 now. So you can imagine that I was really frail and thin. I felt weak, and my ex-husband gambled our entire life savings away. So I had nothing, and my people I felt like were gone, and I had lost my identity. So I had a lot of rebuilding to do if I wanted to move forward and have goals, and I did. I had a lot to do, and I was in my mid-50s starting over, and it's a scary thing to do. So I started with some non-negotiable boundaries. I would bring home food for my little temp job, and I would sit on my bed and eat it and watch TV until I fell asleep. Was pretty much how I was living my life, obviously depressed and without any identity or plan of how I was going to move forward. So the first thing was, I'm not going to eat in my bedroom. I've got an open plan house, and I love to cook. So I'm not going to eat any fast food, and I'm not going to eat in my bedroom. I'm not gonna. I'm gonna be in my bedroom for 2 reasons, and if I'm sick, I'm on the couch. So I'm just hardline boundary. And in 4 years, I've eaten fast food less than 5 times. So it changed my life. It made me eat healthy. It made me start cooking again. Made me start doing things that I enjoyed so that I could rediscover who I was. And then I needed to be strong. And so I started working out and gaining strength. And it took me a long time to gain that weight back. It seems silly to think that it's hard to gain weight, but I stress don't eat. And so it was difficult, and I didn't want to gain fat. I didn't want to gain cortisol weight. I'm, menopausal, so I didn't want any of that happening. And so I started that way and rediscovering, and it became pretty evident that I wanted to be in marketing. I had run a big construction company as CEO. I had done a variety of different things, but marketing was my true passion. I never let all the way go of it. I always had some consulting I was doing on the side. And so I started my agency, Hexagon Media, in 2022. And then in 2023, I started my podcast. And I continued. I've been meditating for about 15 years now, and I really doubled down on that inner work. And I just didn't want to feel like that anymore. I didn't want to walk around and have something that somebody said to me trigger an emotion in me, right? Somebody said that, and now I feel so upset or anxious or stressed or embarrassed or all of the things that somebody says to you and catches you off guard and you take personally. I didn't want to feel like that anymore. And I felt like that a lot. I was so defensive, but also unsure, right? And so when
Yeah.
somebody said something, I took it personally, and I would think, wow, do I really act like that? Is that, gosh, I can't be like that. That uncertainty in my own voice. It took me a little bit to find that. And I did it I kind of felt crazy at first when I was doing it, honestly, because I would say, and I still do this, if somebody's doing something or saying something and it affects me and I feel an emotional response triggered for whatever reason, I catch myself now. I've done it so much now, and I've healed so much of them, but I started doing it just like this. I would say, okay, why do you feel this way just because Limor said this? You love her. She's so smart. There's not one thing you don't like about her. You respect her opinion, but that made you feel so bad on the inside. And instead of honoring her opinion, like, why does that feel that way? Because it doesn't have anything to do with Limor, does it? It always has to
Yeah,
do
and
with
those
you.
things are always internal within us, right? I mean, there are also always the stories we tell to ourselves. And I think, Deborah, your story is very inspiring, and to the women out there, I mean, you can do it all. You can change your life even after hitting rock bottom and facing challenges like you faced, right? I mean, emptiness
Yes.
and divorce and like losing all your money and losing your mom and still reinventing yourself. I mean, in your feeds. I mean, the world doesn't end
It
and you
does
can
not.
always reinvent yourself. And let's help our listeners today to reinvent themselves and brand themselves. I think women feel very uncomfortable about the whole thing around branding, selling, marketing. And I wish those, actually, Deborah, I wish those were skills that we gained even from a young age from school.
I think the reason the reason why we're so uncomfortable and we don't like to talk about branding is because very few of us are sitting in our own skin, right? Especially if you're in corporate America. Your audience is in tech and lives in corporate America around a bunch of men. And when you're that, how masculine do you have to make yourself to fit in corporate America? And then for me, that wasn't the hard part, right? I was an athlete. I was naturally competitive. And so I could dive in with the men. That I felt pretty comfortable with. It was the women that were hard on me. It was the
Interesting.
women who judged my appearance and who talked and gossiped behind your back and said the things. And so that for me, I struggled to find my people in corporate America. I was someone who found my value through achievement. Growing up, I was a gifted, they had their gifted and talented. That was the whole Gen X thing in the 70s for smart kids. So for me, if my mom was unhappy, if I achieved something, she would be happy again. And so I got into that trap. And it kind of fits well in corporate America. You just bust your ass and then everybody will notice. And you have to play the politics. And I wasn't very good at that. And I certainly wasn't good at it with other women because none of us were walking around embracing who we really were, because that is not what any of those corporate people want to see or hear. And it's possible to be true to yourself and still have all of those fantastic corporate skills that you need to succeed in corporate America, but you have to have a comfort level in it. You have to feel comfortable in your own skin. And believe you me, I spent 2 decades not comfortable in my own skin, maybe longer than that. And it's because of labels we get put in, the boxes we get put in as women from a very early age. And it's important that we are able to see what those boxes are and decide, is that really who I am? Is that really who I want to be? And I think it's a big challenge for us to not fight who we are, right?
Yeah. Not
One
try
of
to
the,
be someone else, be ourselves and be happy with it, right? Be happy with
yeah,
who we are.
or be
Yeah.
joyful about it.
Yeah.
Happiness
Yeah.
is kind of a fleeting thing, but joy is something that can come from within.
Mm-hmm.
And if I look at myself joyfully, like I talked about, I can be intense sometimes. I'm really a nerd. I hide it very well because I want to look cute. But if I didn't want to look cute, I would have unmatching wrinkled clothes and a pocket protector for my pens because I really embrace all of those things. But I know this part about me, so I can be very direct. It's kind of like Sheldon in the comedy where he just will say something stone faced. He doesn't feel one way or the other about it. He just says it. And everybody's like, oh, I can't believe you said that. You're so mean. I sometimes do that. And my normal personality is like this, and I'm bubbly. But if you catch me and I'm focused and direct, then I will look up and I will just say the answer direct and sometimes intense. Honestly, I've made people cry without intending to, and it's a horrible feeling. It's a horrible feeling to be like, what did I do? Oh my gosh, and not really know. And I think part of it for me is the contrast between that direct, involved and focused Debra, who isn't mad. I don't feel one way or the other about what I said. I just was direct and unemotional. And that is such a contrast from my normal state of being that people have a tendency to think that I'm mad and disagreeable. And so I've tried to honestly eliminate that part of me. And it's impossible to eliminate something that's just part of you. You can coach it, you can kind of moderate it, you can be aware of it and try to be sensitive of it, but it's an innate part of who I am. It's taken me a long time to accept it.
Yeah.
Now, I will tell you that, and a good part of that part of my personality was developed in corporate America. I'll be honest, it totally was, because you're under so much pressure all the time. I was in marketing, so I was in charge of putting the plan together that was going to grow the business, but I was also responsible for the results. And so there was a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And because of that, that intensity of my personality would come out. And it's taken me a long time to accept that that is just a part of me. And once I did that, now I can use that part of me. Like, that bitch is not in charge, is what I'm going to tell you. That she cannot be in charge of my day. But I can pull her out when I need her and understand that that's a part of who I am. And she doesn't have to be unpleasant and she doesn't have to be reactionary, right? I can be in control of that part of my personality too, and accept it. It's important. I have friends now because I call that person like marketing director Debra, corporate Debra's, and I have friends that will call me and say, what are you doing? Are you working on something creative? And if I say no, they'll say, can I talk to corporate Debra for a minute? Because I really need to ask her some questions, right? It's an important part of my brand and who I am, but it is not right out front. That's not what you see from me. That's not the part of me that sells. That's not the part of me that is I say the marketing as though it's not authentic, but it is authentic, but it's not the outward part of me that you see. It's the nuts and bolts, the grinder in the back of my mind, the smart person, that part of my personality. And accepting it was the key to moving forward with it. Instead of trying to figure out, why are you like that? Why do you keep doing that? Why can't you control that? Why? Change, be different. And when I finally said, okay, that's just who part of my personality is, and it's not bad, it just needs to be managed. Just needs to be managed a little bit.
I
And
love that.
accepting that was important. So
Yeah, I really
accept the
love that.
parts of you that you know you can't change, and frankly you've probably been criticized for. That's how I was. I was
Yeah,
criticized for that. But
yeah,
man, it's an important part of my personality and my brand. It's just
yeah.
on the back burner.
Yeah, I think there's a tendency for people to criticize when someone is different than them. And I face that a lot, like when I got feedback about, oh, you need to be this, you need to be that. And usually, like, the person that was saying that was basically saying, you need to be like me.
Yes,
Because
right?
usually, as people, like, we have the tendency, like, we think that the way we think and operate, I mean, this is how everyone should. And it's not, right? Everyone is different. So part of it is celebrating the differences and understanding that, yeah, you're different and that's okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong about you. You don't need to change who you are. As you said, like, you have to maybe have some awareness of where certain aspects of your personality maybe doesn't serve you well in some scenarios, and how can you bring that more into awareness and choose when to use
Yes.
and when not to use it.
And that really is the key, to have your personal brand be authentic. So you're not hiding parts of yourself. I think we have a tendency, especially in corporate America, to package ourselves up the way they want to see us, right? I'm going to package myself up. And I think that's fine, as long as all of your wrappings are authentic. As long as you're not pretending to be something that you're not deep down, then I think that's okay. You're putting your best foot forward. This is the parts of me that you're going to automatically see will be good at this job. Now, the parts of me that make me great at this job, yeah, I'm not bringing out onto the table for everyone to look at and talk to, but they're parts of me too. And accepting that is so important. I will tell you that being on your soul path and finding your way and sitting in your own skin is magnetic. It's magnetic. People want to talk to you. They want to hear your voice. They can tell there's just something about that person. We've all been around someone like that, right? Where you're like, wow, they walked into the room and the energy changed. And it's not because they knew more than me, and it's not because they had more experience than me, and it's not because they were better at brown nosing than me, all of those things. There's just something about them that's exciting. There's something about them that's magnetic, that draws energy to them. Their energy is exciting. And I have found, for me, it's authenticity, and it is being on that right path, accepting where I'm supposed to go, what my purpose in life is, and how does this career, this job, this podcast, this appearance, this friendship, this relationship, whatever it is I'm doing, how does it help me along that path? And if it doesn't, then I'm going to reevaluate it. Maybe I shouldn't be there. And what I have come to know to be true from experience is, if you aren't where you're supposed to be, the universe will screw up your life royally to get you there. Whether that's God or spirit or whatever it is. If you're not where you're supposed to be, and you keep having problems and you keep having this happen or that happen, and it's like, why? Maybe those, I like to think of them as nudges. That's a nudge that that's not the job for you. That's not the client for you. That would have been a problem client for me if I'd have gotten that client. Maybe they're not a problem client for that competitor that got them, because that's where they're supposed to be. But if they'd have been over here on my path, then we might have butted heads, and I accept.
Me too. I think that there's a tendency to judge ourselves like, oh, I lost that deal, or oh, I lost that job, or oh, whatever it is, because something is wrong with me, or I'm not good enough. And it's just accepting, like, yeah, that may not be the best fit for me. That's not who I'm supposed to serve, or that's not the job I'm supposed to do. You know, it happened to me several times. Like, either I didn't get a job, and I felt like there is no match. I felt like,
But you felt like you needed to go for it because you're in corporate America, and
yeah,
there's
you
this
need to go for
pressure
it.
to.
And like, if they reject you, you feel like, why did they reject me? But eventually, when I thought about it, it's like, well, it wasn't right for me, and not the job or the company or what they expected of me or this specific person or whatever. I mean, it just wasn't the right fit. And I have to accept it and accept that it's not just about me. It's about, like you said, like, that's not supposed to happen.
Before I started my agency, when I was trying to figure out what the hell am I going to do, I applied for different marketing positions, and crazy things would happen to keep me from getting those jobs.
Yeah.
Crazy things. I had two departments within the marketing department of a big corporation. Both want me to interview for positions. And I went pretty far in both interviews, and then they both backed off for the other person without discussing it with one another. It was just weird things happen that made you go, that was so unusual and weird. What is going on? And it became a thing where it was like, that's not the way I'm supposed to go. There's just way too many blocks. And even on a simple level, I was out selling sponsorships for my podcast. At the time, I had a co-host, and we were out, and like a good sales coach that I am, we had our whole route mapped out through Google Maps. We were just going to go through it like a system and knock it out, right? And the first one we went to, a literal roadblock. Like, the road was blocked. There was no way to get around without going way off of our route. So we had to skip that one. The next one we went to, the store had moved to downtown Oklahoma City, which is nowhere near our route that we were going. So we couldn't go to that one. The next one, there was a big detour, and we went around. We finally got there. And Christine and I looked at each other and went, this is just way too difficult. This is not the day to be doing this. And I said, I'm going to run in here and drop this packet off for the owner. And then let's go to Remington Park. So Remington Park's a big horse racing place here in Oklahoma City. And we wanted to broadcast live on Kentucky Derby Day last year. And I was struggling to get in the door to talk to them about it. Their voicemail was full, this, that, and the other. And I was like, let's just change gears. So we leave, we drive to Remington Park, it's about 20 minutes away. We go in. Yep, got it. We broadcast live from there last season, about a year ago, and see if you listen, your intuition, the universe, God, whatever it is, will have. I could have kept going and fought through all of the BS that I was getting every time I tried to do what I planned and mapped perfectly. Couldn't do it one block after the other, because that was the day I needed to go to Remington to get in the door. So those little nudges, and the same is true with your brand. If you think about things that made you feel uncomfortable, the things that you love about yourself that no one knows about. Like, I love this about myself, but I don't tell anybody that I do. If you can embrace those aspects of yourself and not care whether somebody likes it or not, that's the key. And I really got that from what helped me the most step outside and accept that was listening to Sadhguru lectures. Seems like an odd person for me to listen to, but he said this one time and it spoke to me, and I have tried very hard to embody it, and it has helped me so much. And it was, someone came up and asked him in one of his lectures about, you get asked all these crazy inappropriate questions. How can you deal with all this inappropriateness? You're so good and spiritual and blah, blah, blah. And he just said, because it's not about me. It's about them. What they say. Lost my microphone. What they say and what they do, that's them. That's not me.
Yeah.
And no matter what they do, this is me. This is my way. No, this
But
is how
that
I'm going
requires,
to be.
like, as you said, to feel very comfortable in your own skin. Goes back to what you started with.
Yes.
You really need to work on your inner self, beliefs, how you value yourself, how you think about yourself, your passions, your gifts, what you're here to do, what you're meant to do, why you're doing that, what do you bring to the world. I mean, I think this is something that I keep kind of I keep thinking about it a lot, Debra, about like who I am, what I want to do, why am I here in this world, what am I destined to do? And right now, and that may change, right? But right now, I'm focused on supporting like women in tech and helping them grow and feel comfortable in themselves and confident. And like as long as I feel like this is what I'm supposed to do, and I'm passionate about it, and I'm bringing a lot of things, like I'm valuable for them, then I will
Yes.
be feeling comfortable talking about it.
Yes. And I think part of that is some people say it's confidence, but it's not. It's comfort. It's acceptance about yourself. I don't have to be confident to know who I am. I just have to love myself and understand that what I bring to the table doesn't have to be one alone. It's okay
Yeah.
for me to collaborate with others, especially other women. We're so hard on one another.
Yeah.
We're harder on one another than anyone is hard on us. And when we stand together, we're so powerful. When we accept that what makes us different, when we come together, we're stronger from it. I mean, can you imagine how boring the world would be if we were all alike?
Yeah.
It wouldn't be successful. The
Absolutely.
world would fail if we tried to force everyone to be just like us and stifle all of that
Mm-hmm.
creativity. So it is important to accept who we are. But part of me finding that discovery was really healing all of those triggers that I didn't understand why I would get upset about things. And it became like, well, maybe you just have anxiety, or maybe you're depressed, or maybe this, when in reality, I was just walking around letting everything that everyone else did affect my emotional state. So
Yeah.
being able, that emotional regulation, not letting what's happening around you affect and give you an emotional response. And I think that probably in tech and in corporate America, I mean, people call tech panicking all the time, right?
But
So
this is
there's a,
something you can practice. I mean, I've been there too, and I've been triggered by a lot of people, and I worked on that. And I had a coach who helped me, like, not be triggered so much by other people, and like be more grounded and like, oh, as you said, like this is about them, not about me. If someone says something or they behave a certain way, that's not about me. That's about them. Try not to focus too much on that and take it too much to heart and
and
reflect like as something that I am doing wrong or something bad about me.
it's hard because people end up with, but I want them to like me. I don't want them to feel that way. I want them to understand. I want them to see my point of view. Right?
Yeah.
It's about wanting them to agree, wanting them to come to your way of thinking, and thinking that that is necessary when it's not necessary, right? It's not necessary that they come around to my way of thinking and that they agree with me, or that I can see their point of view, or I can understand what my behavior did to make them. It's not about me. Just like, this is my way. No matter what happens out here, this is me. And I'm certainly not perfect. I definitely still have things that, and you're going to get upset about things that happen around you. Upsetting things happen to us, but there's a difference, right? Between feeling triggered and emotional and not really knowing exactly where that's coming from. I'm just really wound up. That really wound me up. And I'm enumerating it over and over in my mind. And it's important not to do that.
Yeah. I can't believe we've been talking for over 30 minutes, and I would love kind of
Whoa,
to
we
wrap
could
this
just keep
up.
going, right?
Yeah, we can keep going forever. And I'd like to wrap it up with maybe one tip you want to give and share, obviously, how our listeners can find you.
I think my biggest tip for finding your own personal brand and feeling comfortable is spending time alone with yourself. And I challenge everyone really to take 5 minutes, just 5 minutes a day, quiet, sitting by yourself, no music, no TV, no media, no screens, nothing, by yourself. Just sit by yourself. And whatever thoughts come, let them come. and let them go. And pretty soon you will start seeing a difference in the thoughts that come to you during that 5 minutes. And then sometimes you'll have been sitting there for 10 and you didn't realize it because you were so wrapped up in your own thoughts. Get to know yourself. There's only one way to do it. So that is really what my tip and challenge is, to spend just a few minutes a day with no one but you. Get to know who you are and see where that ends you. Send me an email. Let me know how it goes for you. You can always reach me at Debra, Debra, at dealswithheels.com. That's a great place to connect with my podcast. And we are in season 3, where I took over as solo host. And so that is a real challenging thing that happened to me, and I had to overcome my co-host needing to back away. And so that's a great way to get in touch with me. My website is hexagonmedia.net. From that website, you can download my free ebook, 5 Steps to Having a Successful Mindset, which are the 5 steps I took to change my life.
Incredible. And I'll put all the links in the show notes.
Thank
and
you.
Debra, it's been a pleasure connecting with you again. And good luck with your podcast, with your solo episodes. And I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
I'm sure. We connected on LinkedIn. That's also a great way to find me. And I had such a great time. Thanks for having me as a guest.
Me too. My pleasure. Thank you so much for listening for the episode with Debra. And if you found it valuable, please take a second to follow the show, share it with a friend, or leave a review. I read every single one and it means the world for me. And before you go, next week I'm talking to someone who completely changed how I think about leadership. And you probably heard the word facilitation, but chances are no one ever taught you how essential it really is as a leadership skill. And my guest next week, Therese Miclot, is a co-author of The Facilitation Advantage, and she's joining me to break it all down. And the conversation is packed with practical tools on mindset, presence, and how to speak with clarity, especially in high-stakes meetings. So if you ever walked into a meeting and thought, what am I doing here? This episode is definitely for you. So don't miss it. Subscribe now so it lands right in your feed. Thank you so much for being here with me today, and I'll see you next week. Bye!